This morning's guest started dissecting frogs at a young age. Today he's here dissecting local health issues. Who is he? You'll meet him coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the M. Russell Holiday Cottage at Brook Green Gardens, the largest outdoor sculpture garden in the world and home of Nights of 1,000 Candles. We're focused on prematurity and local health concerns, and we're visiting with the Health and Medical Director for Region 6 of the Department of Health and Environmental Control, Dr. Covia Stanley. Good morning, Dr. Stanley.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for coming in early on a Wednesday morning.
Thank
here
you.
At 7.
Glad to be here.
The opportunity to get you in. I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving last week.
We did, yes.
Great, great. Were you? Did you stay in ORE or did you get over to Brunswick?
Well, I
County?
went over to Brunswick County.
Is that right? Where
yes.
Your parents are?
My parents and my brothers. Yes.
That's great. That's great. A lot going on these days, and obviously a lot of folks are thinking about health and
yes.
local health concerns here around the holidays.
Yes, certainly. And certainly we want folks to remember to eat nutritiously, and after eat all that good food, get out and exercise.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Do some walking for at least 30 minutes, break a sweat, you know, 2 or 3 times a week.
Is it 2 or 3 times a week folks need to be out walking?
At least,
Is
yes.
that right? You just mentioned after a Thanksgiving meal. How long do folks need to wait? This is just a general question, but obviously as an MD, you probably heard that before. Is there an amount of time to wait before going out to walk or to exercise after eating a big meal?
Well, not a specific time. You know,
Right.
you can pretty much gauge yourself. I think maybe about 30 minutes to an hour
Right.
afterward. Yeah.
So it is a person-to-person.
Yeah, person.
Yes.
Thing, as long as you do it
Yeah,
during
just
the day.
make sure you
yes,
do it.
Yes.
Very definitely. Real quick about yourself, Dr. Stanley. You're originally from the area.
I'm from Brunswick County, just north of here. I grew up in a little community called Longwood, North Carolina, which is in the western part of Brunswick County. And actually, my home is about 8 miles from the Ocean Isle Beach.
Is that right?
Yes, it is. And it's a rural area.
It is a rural
Yes.
area.
Yes.
And of course, you mentioned you were just there last Thursday, so you still have family there.
I still have family there, my 2 parents, and I have 3 brothers that live there, and 1 brother's in Newport News, Virginia.
So there's 5 boys. Are there any girls?
No, I'm the oldest of the boys, and my wife was the first daughter that my mother accepted.
Is that?
Yeah, the wives are just like daughters.
That is wonderful.
Strong family,
So
family.
you were the first of 5 boys.
Yes.
My Lord, you said 3 of them are there in Brunswick County, the next county over from
Yes,
Lori, and one's
yes.
up in Virginia.
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah,
did he
yeah.
come down?
He did, yes.
Golly, so
Yes.
y'all had a big feast.
A
then.
big feast, yes.
Last Thursday. Well, of course, Region 6 here for DHEC, South Carolina DHEC, is Horry, Georgetown, and Williamsburg County. So right here in Georgetown, we're more or less right in the center of it all.
Yes, we are.
Do you have to travel the 3 counties on a regular basis?
I try to purposely get to each county at least once or twice a month.
Right.
I am a people person, and I like to go out to the different clinics and centers where we provide services for folk, to meet the staff and just to listen, have a presence there. And I have found that it seems to boost them around, and people have more trust in us rather than just sending everything from the ivory tower.
Right. That's a very good point.
Yes.
Actually getting out there. Of course, your hands-on experience as
Yes.
an OBGYN
Yes.
gave you that ability surely to touch people and be a part of their lives. What
Yes.
prompted you to get into medicine in the first place?
It's interesting. As a young boy, about 4th or 5th grade, I wanted to be a doctor and had a little doctor bag for Christmas, and I had a
Did you
cousin
really?
who played my nurse. And as I grew in the 9th grade, I really got into science. And being in a rural area, we just were thankful for Sears catalogs and National Valley Hess and Alden, and I just took my money that I cropped tobacco with during that summer and had my mother to order a dissecting kit for me.
You were
in the ninth grade.
Yeah.
And I started collecting samples from the ditches and from the little ponds around the house.
You are kidding. This is
in the ninth grade, and in the 11th and 12th grade, I started having an interest in dissecting frogs. So my brothers helped me to collect frogs who were victimized by me, actually opening them up, checking the organs out, and then sewing them up with tobacco twine. And I just had that interest. It was rather unique.
That is. Did any of your other siblings get into the medical field, or they just watched you?
They just watched. And they were very supportive. Supportive. Now, I'm also a pastor of a Baptist church here in Horry County, and when they introduce me or when they talk about me at my anniversaries, they always bring that up, that we helped them to collect those frogs, and how they were my surgical assistants.
I love it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then later, of course, attended, I believe, North Carolina Central Medical School. I think
I went to North Carolina Central University in Durham.
Right.
And then I went into the Air Force and spent 4 years there. This was during the Vietnam War time, so I went on and got my obligation out the way, and came back to Durham and got my master's. And I worked as a medical technologist at Duke for a couple of years, and then I went on to University of Buffalo in New York.
I saw that.
And earned my doctorate in medicine.
But later came back, I saw part of your residency was at UNC Chapel.
Well, I did my residency in obstetrics and gynecology in the University of North Carolina, Department of OBGYN.
Right, and boy, that must have been, what was it like when you think about those early years? At what point did you decide that OBGYN would be the place for you, would be the specialty? Was it during college? Was it even back then early on, or was it during med school?
It was during the third year in med school.
Is that right?
We take electives during the third year, and you go through different electives monthly. And I generally wanted to be a family physician, family practice. And as I went around with other doctors, it wasn't as challenging after you do quite a few throat swabs and looking in the ears and looking in the eyes and just the general medical things. I felt I needed a little more challenge, and I got interested in pediatrics because I thought of the little babies can't speak, although the mamas are the ones there to help them get the attention and medication they need. And as I rotated through, I narrowed it down to, I think it was in March of my third year, down to surgery in the morning. You asked me at lunchtime, it was internal medicine, and asked me at supper time, it was OBGYN. So as June evolved during that third year, I continued to narrow it down, and I narrowed it down to OBGYN.
Sounds like you really like dinner more than
and internal medicine. And then when I applied to the different residency programs, I sent a letter to the Department of OBGYN and to the Department of Internal Medicine at the 6 different university programs that I was seeking to do the residency, and I just said whoever replies first is where I'll go.
It's in God's hands.
Yes. So whenever I got it from UNC, I said, this is it. And it's interesting, the program director there was a fellow resident with the chairman of the OBGYN department in Buffalo. They did their residency together at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville.
Is that? Oh, wow, what a connection.
Yes,
of course, to be back in the triangle where you attended undergraduate and got your master's, where your wife's a native of Durham. To be back there was probably a great coming home.
Yes. And also, as I said, with OBGYN, I was able to practice that specialty as well as some internal medicine as well, because we have many women with hypertension and diabetes and other problems that normally you would refer to one of the specialists, but I was trained in such a way that I was able to take care of those problems, and I took pride in those diabetics giving them the insulin that they needed at the right time and keeping them at 100 milligrams percent. And had babies with no shoulder dystocia, any real big babies. All of them came out within 8 pounds.
Fascinating, Dr.
So I
Stanley.
enjoyed it.
You know, so often now, someone shared with me the other day there were only 2 recession-proof businesses they could imagine. One was an obstetrician, one was a funeral home. Of course, an aspect, of course, for obstetricians there. It was a side of the medicine that a lot of folks used to think about. Unfortunately, I have 2 uncles who were both formerly OBs, now just focused on the gynecological side because of insurance issues have really impacted dramatically.
Yes, and that's what I did. I gave up OB after my 4th year in private practice and just decided to just do gynecology. It's a different world. The sad part about it in obstetrics and gynecology, with the malpractice premium being so high, you have to practice medicine defensively. Every time you see a patient, automatically you think of 12 people behind them. There's that potential. Even though you did the best thing, did all you could, there are people who said, I didn't do this to sue you. I know the insurance company has the money. Therefore, the premiums are increased.
The tragic thing that he was sharing, my uncle shared with me on Thanksgiving, was this aspect that this insurance has to be in place, I believe, 18 years out after his last birth, or 20 years.
I'm one of those who had to pay $50,000 to get out of it, what they call the bow or the tail end.
Wow.
And thank God all my babies have come through okay.
Yes, I'm sure they have.
And my last baby, her dad's a doctor, her mother's a nurse, and she's, I think, a sophomore at UNC now.
That's great.
In nursing school.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Think about, for you, and obviously having those experiences, you can truly talk about prematurity.
Yes.
And the impact that it makes on so many. I'm sure you've traveled to McLeod or to many of the hospitals and have seen it yourself, to see
UNC,
the impacts.
Duke, all of it.
We've heard the parents of ambassador babies at the chef's auction recently and other events speaking about their own family issues. But share with viewers just a little bit about prematurity and why it's something that folks need to think about in supporting the March of Dimes, or of course your position with DHEC, just making sure that they're aware of some of the issues.
Well, certainly prematurity is defined as having a baby, that's born before 36 weeks gestation. Normally it's about 40 weeks, we say, gestation, but those babies are born weighing, less than 6 pounds, or many of them about 1 or 2 pounds. In other words, they are not fully developed. There are problems with respiratory system. The lungs are not completely filled, and certainly the brain is not completely developed, so they end up being problems. So a baby that's born before 36 weeks has a strong chance of being in the neonatal intensive care unit, what we call the NICU. It's a special nursery for these tiny babies. And the good thing about it, we have specialists called neonatologists. These are pediatricians who have gone through additional training a year or two in order to take care of the needs of these tiny babies. And it is just so costly to take care of these small ones, not just in terms of the dollars, but also in terms of just the caregivers, mom and dad. I know that it says about $40,000 one would have to pay per year just to take care of a baby like that, just individually, in contrast to, say, maybe $3,000 for a normal birth. I mean, those are conservative numbers.
Right.
Very conservative numbers.
Based off of some that we've heard.
Yes.
Of the daily cost for give viewers just a sense. I mean, some of the costs you're talking about when a baby's born that small, obviously earlier than 36 weeks, it could be a virtually normal, but if it's at 29 weeks, oftentimes we're hearing about, or earlier, you're talking about a 1 pound, a 1.5 pound, 2 pound baby.
Yes, and I did a PowerPoint a few weeks ago and had my executive assistant to put a picture of a potato on one side of the picture and the small baby on the other side, just to give folks kind of an association or to see what the comparison of the size. But I was fortunate as a honoree for the champion for children for Horry Georgetown Tech a few weeks ago, and they had a picture of a baby on the index finger. I said, now that picture is worth 10,000 words. Folks do not understand we have babies just that small. So they require a lot of medication, a lot of physician care, a lot of nursing care, and it's just so expensive. And then we are concerned as they grow and are placed into a transitional unit and ultimately graduate from the NICU when they go home, there are still concerns that the parents have to address, particularly as it relates to the breathing pattern, and they have monitors on them, and
constant.
And then the child might have some mental or behavioral problems as a result of that. So we want to prevent that if we can. Now, some of the causes of prematurity certainly might be the fact that women who've had a baby already, they're predisposed to the mouth of their womb or the cervix, might open up about 16 weeks or about 4 months. And if that's not recognized and addressed, and what I mean by addressed, in other words, having a cerclage or clip put in the cervix to keep it together. And after we put that clip there, you might have heard of Sherrod-Carr clip, and we have the woman to lay down, and we put her in what we call the Trendelenburg position. In other words, her head down lower than her feet. And this takes the gravitational pull off that cervix. And so we keep them in the bed, a bed rest for a length of time until the uterus and the cervix have gained the integrity and strength, to allow her to get up. Now, in my day, we kept them in the hospital as long as was necessary. Now, with the managed care situation, we have some challenges keeping them in there. But the point is keeping that mother off her feet and not engaging in sexual activity. And we need to have the significant other, the man, also aware, that he has to be supportive and make sure that she gets that
during
rest.
The entire pregnancy. Not just at the tail end.
Right,
entire pregnancy. You're highlighting.
Right.
So now, but a woman would principally only know that, for instance, her cervix is open and meeting with her OB there. I mean, or is that something she would know on her own? No. She would not know it on her own. She might give complaint of contractions. That there are contractions, or she might have leakage of fluid. She knows she's not urinating on the set. And then when she goes to the doctor, they can do the appropriate testing of the fluid there and see if there's signs that the membranes have been leaking. And of course, if the membranes haven't been leaking, they can go ahead and do the ultrasound and do some other amniocentesis studies and all these kinds of things. Are there things that viewers can do to try to make a difference? Either, of course, the March of Dimes is a great vehicle. There's other ways, but what are some things they could do if they've got a loved one that may be pregnant, or they've got a daughter or a granddaughter that may be pregnant, or you talked about the men, things they can do. When you talk about being supportive, what are some things that men can do?
Well, certainly
to try to make sure we can decrease the rates of prematurity.
Well, certainly just taking the information that we're talking about now, and of course we're going to the faith communities, we're going to the different clubs, the Kiwanis, Rotaries, and all going to fraternities and sororities, just letting the folk know that this is an issue, this is an epidemic, and a lot of things we can prevent. And also I'm with the preconception healthcare work group at CDC, where we want women of childbearing age to start taking care of themselves from the time they enter menarche. Menarche is that time when they start having menses or monthly periods. And that involves them just hygiene, taking care of, the feminine aspects, and eating nutritiously, trying to avoid becoming obese or fat. Because we find that women who are obese do have a tendency to have some of these problem of prematurity. Abstain from smoking or avoid being around secondhand smoke.
It really can have that kind of an impact.
It can have an impact because the smoking in itself can cause what we call small for gestational age baby. Even though it might be termed, but it's still small. Something about the smoke causes it to not fully develop. Also, just to avoid having a lot of bladder and kidney infections, because these infections, when a woman starts getting fever and getting warm, the warmth in itself can perhaps irritate the muscles of the uterus and bring about premature labor. And also, basically, women just need to rest more. We are in a society now where we're just so busy doing things that we need to rest, and abstaining from drugs and alcohol, and also intimate partner violence. We find that a lot of women are hit in the abdomen or kicked in the abdomen by their significant other.
Is that right?
Yeah, we have nationally quite a few women who've died as a result of intimate partner violence. So this is where guys can be very helpful in helping the woman to have good mental state.
Absolutely. I'm sure women like to get Dr. Soldiers. I need to slow down and relax. They probably like to hear that, particularly from a pastor as well. You serve both those roles.
And of course, we found out in the past few years that a lot of the premature babies are born to women who have their degrees and they've gone on and completed their career, and then they decide they want to have a baby. Mother Nature says that Father Time is taking over, so so they try to overcome that by getting medication that will help them to fertilize egg. They end up getting 4, 5, or 6 eggs fertilized, and then you have these little small babies that are born and kept in the NICU. And of course, we found out also in my conference a few weeks ago that there are a lot of women who have an induction of labor, before 39 weeks. And induction is, where they go and get Pitocin or medication to help bring about contractions for convenience. We know that it's good to induce if it's a maternal or a fetal medical indication, but not just for convenience, because I want to be able to sit down with my family, eat turkey. I don't want to be pregnant or it gets too hot. I don't want to walk around. So we found out that induction of labor is beginning to be a big problem too.
Dr. Stanley, you're not going to believe it, more than 20 minutes have passed already. There's so many more topics to touch. Obviously, if folks want to learn more about prematurity from the March of Dimes perspective, they can call, I think, the 488-3463 number, go online to marchadimes.com. If they wanted to get a DHEC support or a Department of Health and Environmental Control, I think, you said the scdhec.gov is a good website. Is that right? Is there a good phone number that a viewer could call?
Well, certainly in this area, you can call my office, 365-3126.
Okay, great. 365-3126. And, of course, your role, Horry, Georgetown, and Williamsburg. But if one of our viewers from the PD or Southeastern North Carolina called, you could give them the appropriate numbers to call or the website to visit. But they've got to have a better understanding.
We must be rather assertive on this, getting this information out.
What are some other things that viewers can do if they don't have a loved one that's going through a pregnancy? Or what are some things they can do to help get the word out? And what are some good key tips that they need to say? You've highlighted some of them, the lack of smoking, getting some exercise.
And just helping young ladies see the need for getting a quality education. Go on and get a high school diploma. And everybody's not for college, but if they could go to a technical school or trade school and get a skill so that they can help take care of the baby, because children are expensive. And when you think in terms of the car seat you have to buy, you think in terms of the formula, just the cereal. That's expensive. So you need to have a good education. I think by the time you go through education, you mature more so that you can make good moral decisions and judgment. And if we can encourage women to space their pregnancies, at least have 2 years between pregnancies, that will help tremendously. And this is a marathon. This is not a sprint.
Those are great words. I think a lot of folks want to know, knowing that you're a father of 2 and a grandfather of 3. Were you involved at all, or did either of your boys follow in your footsteps, or were you involved in the pregnancies there of your 3 grandchildren? Did you ever follow them or get intimate? Do OBs ever, or did they step back and say, let another professional?
No, that's one thing that I tried to maintain my objectivity. I just introduced myself to the obstetrician, and I just did not say anything else. You know, a matter of respect and courtesy.
That's great.
Objectivity.
That's great. Those are great words. Thanks so much for being with us. I'm sorry we've run out of time.
Okay.
The time has absolutely flown by. Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
You're quite welcome.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Dr. Covia Stanley coming up next. You know, I wish you could have been here off cameras. I'm talking to Dr. Stanley. I was so sorry we ran out of time. We couldn't focus on all the amazing awards he's won, all the who's who about pastoring a church in Conway for almost a decade. He said, we got to focus on prematurity. That's my baby. That's what I wanted to focus on higher things. We didn't get to talk about the flu as much as he would have liked to add. And he said, we got to get back to get the word out about flu. Vaccines available. It's an opportunity. You can go online to scdhec.gov or pick up the phone, 843-365-3126. Also know, wash your hands. Wash your hands. It's a key time. Get out there. Whether you're an adult or child, wash your hands. But go online, scdhec.gov, or pick up the phone, 365-3126.